Hey yo, this is another episode of the Steven from the All Time Podcast. Listen to my dad, he's awesome.
The 1987 Buick GNX, the Grand National GNX, also beat the Ferrari in the quarter-mile run by 0.3 seconds. The only car that was able to challenge the GNX at the time was a Lamborghini Countach. The GNX is one of the hardest cars of all time. And welcome to a new episode of Steven from the All Time Podcast. I am your host, the Ayatollah of Hip Hop, the whole damn show, the rated R podcaster, the visionary, the revolutionary, and the voice of the voiceless with my co-host this evening.
Hey, yo, what's up? I'm the man with the shortest intro ever. What's up? It's Milenko. What do you do?
You're very French Canadian, god damn it. Can you just say it?
French Canadian. I don't like to repeat week and week. Week to week. I need to switch it up all the time.
We're always in a bad mood, right?
No, I need to switch it up.
And our other co-host.
Hey, what's up, everyone? You already recognize the voice is the greatest there is, the greatest there was, and the greatest there ever will be. Also, the second favorite French Canadian, and probably the one of the biggest car lovers on this podcast for sure. Because when I saw that album drop and I saw that name, I was like, "Ooh, baby, this is gonna be good."
Your name?
I didn't even know what it was.
Oh, my name's written. It's Derick all time. If you don't know it by now, y'all need to tune in. You need to leave a like and subscribe because I'm here every goddamn week.
I didn't
Boys,
even
how is
realize
everyone
the
doing?
GNX. I didn't realize for the GNX what it meant. I
Really?
saw like the album cover, and I didn't. Yeah, I did the 1+1, but I didn't get it till I heard the lyrics as well.
I have no idea anything about cars. I never my son is interested in cars, to be honest. But I had to go look it up what GNX meant, and I stumbled upon a bunch of information. And actually, the car itself is a beautiful looking car. I wish that I could probably afford that one day.
Uh, Good luck. They're very hard to come by because that's so basically the GNX is the Buick Grand National, and it's like basically, if you guys know a little bit about cars, it's the SS version of the Buick Grand National, which makes it a very, very rare car, a very sought after car, a very like collectors love this thing because it's really, really good. It's very hard to come by and it's very expensive.
And it just in black, right? I think it just came in black color, no other color.
From the factory, I'm not too sure. I do believe it's the urban legend that goes around. I have seen different ones with different colors, just people resto mod them or whatever the case may be. But that is what's going on today. And I believe that if you want to get one in decent shape, it's about $170,000. And that's decent shape. It's not like in good condition. So yeah.
Boys, let's get into it right away. We got two albums that we're going to review and talk about. Probably our two favorite artists on this show dropped albums. We took our time with this. We gave ourselves about a week and a half, 2 weeks before we wanted to do this review episode. And I think when Kendrick Lamar drops an album, you don't review it right away. You don't talk about it right away because there's so many things that go into an album that's made this way. There's so many things that go into an album when Kendrick Lamar makes a piece of art like this. So it's important that we digest it. We go back into it. We read into it a bit, and we discover the album with time. And I'll be honest, before we get into it, I'm still discovering things. Just today, I listened to the album maybe 7, 8 times just because I wanted to really dig deeper into it, listen to it on headphones, listen to it on a speaker, really see if I could find other different little things in it. And I still am, it's like a Christmas gift, right? You're taking off the package, the bow, you get the gift, you open it. If it's a toy, you take it out of the package, you're playing with it for a bit. Like there's so much that goes into it. And we get excited, pause when Kendrick Lamar comes out with an album. So let's get into the Kendrick Lamar GNX review. Let's start off with your first impressions of the album. Milenko, I know you're a huge Kendrick fan. We've spoken about him on this episode. This year we did the Kendrick Lamar quote unquote beef with Drake. We did
There's
this
no quotes there. That
episode.
was a beef.
Yeah. I just hate using the word beef. I would say the battle more. That's the word I was looking for, the battle. So what were your first thoughts on GNX?
Surprise album. Didn't expect it at all. And track by track, I was like, oh my God, he didn't miss on this. The intro started off with the 10 out of 10 level, and he didn't miss for the the whole album. I'm like, oh my God, he really did this. And he had fun. He had fun. It's fun to get an album that is not so much of a heavy
Concept?
listen.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a concept to it. There's still a line through it, but yeah, it's just fun to hear something that he's having fun. He's just putting out an album to have fun, and it's still quality.
Derick, you're the guy that's just getting into hip hop, right? You've gotten into probably this is probably your biggest year of getting into artists, right? Am I
for sure. Obviously, there's artists that, and I've said this before, there's artists that make themselves undeniable within the hip hop community. I think even if you're outside looking in, you've heard of Kendrick, you've heard of J. Cole, you've heard of Drake, you've heard of certain amount of guys, Kendrick being one of them, especially in this modern day and age. Listen, putting that album in, I'm not going to repeat too much of what Milenko said, but it's the truth. That album, it was just, for the most part, fun top to bottom. The first song, it hooks you in, hook, line, and sinker right away. If you're not captivated by the first song, I don't know what the hell you're listening to. Yeah, it's just a fun album. I've heard other Kendrick projects in the past, not too much, but I've heard other ones. To Pimp a Butterfly. I own his last project before this one. And this was, for me, having listened to those two projects, was very much a breath of fresh air. It was something much lighter, much easier to enjoy. Like Milenko said, the other ones are like, they're hard, not hard listens, but you gotta listen. Got to put the headphones and you just sit with it and you just really like pay attention. Not that you don't pay attention to this album, but there's a little bit more of that head bob going, a little bit more of that beat going. And yeah, we'll dive into it a little bit more in detail. But first impressions, yeah, it was just a fun album.
I mentioned concept and the fun aspect that Milenko and you brought to it. You're absolutely right. Looking at this album, every time Kendrick drops, I'm always like, okay, what's the concept? Where is he going to go with this? What is he going to give us that's new? I've always compared him to the Outkast. I've always compared him to Outkast, and how Outkast was able to give us every album something different, a different sound, different concepts, different instrumentation, different lyricism. They always wanted to push the boundaries and do something so differently. Look at what they did with Aquemini and then Stankonia. That's what Kendrick Lamar does with his albums. That every time he drops something, it's always totally different from what he just came out with. And I find with this album, he was able just to really make an album based on paying respects to the music he came up listening to. Right? Like doing an album on the sounds that he enjoyed. And you don't really hear these sounds in his previous albums. I would say maybe some of the same concept style songs, but just look at, like, has he ever come up with an intro like that on an album where he's just, I don't want to say it's bar heavy, but there's so much that he put into it lyrically, and he doesn't even want to come off with it as it's lyrically, because he says it in the song. This is not for lyricists, fuck a double entendre. But he's really giving us a statement, right? It's a statement. And then, like I mentioned, just getting into the different sounds on the album, where it's more of a West Coast sound, more of a Bay Area sound. And growing up, that's the music that Kendrick Lamar listened to, right? And we'll get into that sound, but it's just so fun to go into here and just see what else he could do, see how he's able to push himself forward and be able to be like, I'm gonna give you these people something different. And he's piggybacking on the Not Like Us single, right?
100%.
Yeah, massively. That I texted Milenko during the week, and I was like, I do feel like he's after. Listen, if you haven't listened to Not Like Us, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but it was the biggest song in the world for a while. And the first time I put the album in, I just felt like I was listening to modified, slightly different versions of Not Like Us. And I didn't dislike it. Not Like Us is a hard fucking song. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a hard song. But to your point, like, he's really piggybacking off of it, and the praise and the attention that song got. Also, who are we kidding? Like, you're in to make a bag at some point. Like, you're in to make money, and why not capitalize on a sound that people were like, hey, I've never heard Kendrick on that sort of sound before, or like, I really enjoy this. And he just capitalized on it for at least the good first half of the album, if not just a little bit more, that he really leaned into that sound. And for the most part, it was really great. And I think people are really going to enjoy this, casuals and hardcore fans too.
100%.
Okay, let's get into the songs. Let's talk about the tracks, the standout tracks. The album starts off with the mariachi singer Deira Barrera, who he discovered at the Dodgers game during the World Series, and brought her on to do these specific Spanish parts on the album. And I thought right away that was brilliant. It brings a different effect. Kendrick Lamar, when he makes an album, there's like I mentioned at the beginning, there's a lot that goes into it, right? It's not just music and lyrics. There's a lot more that goes into it. And I thought that it was super cool that he had brought this woman in who he had met at the Dodger Stadium. And there's a story behind that. And she brought her own style to the album to kick off Whacked Out Murals. Milenko, start off with Whacked Out Murals. It's a perfect intro.
Yeah, because it tells you right away his intentions. I think he starts and he's hungry right away. He's telling you, look, I don't come here to play. This is, the line that stands out for me, you said it, you mentioned it, but when he says, fuck a double entendre, I want you to feel this shit. That's the one. And really, the other one that I really love on this first song is when he says that, look, it was fuck you guys, but now it's Bureau. So he's going against everyone. Now he feels it. He knows people hate him. And he's talking about the Whacked Out mural. They painted over his mural by pure hate. And I think the intention is there. And right away, he puts you in, and the crescendo to the song is perfect. I think you see it throughout the album. The guy knows how to, he does this easily now. He knows what to do. He's calculated, but the crescendo and the progression of the song is perfect.
He mentions Lil Wayne, saying that Lil Wayne was disappointed in him. I think that's more of where he got the aggression for the song.
Yep.
He talks about Snoop. That there you go. I was actually going to buy a crew neck with that cover on it. He talks about Snoop. Hoping that he took the edibles because he reposted TaylorMade. He's talking about all the hatred that he's been getting just because he's been giving the Super Bowl opportunity, and that built that fire under him. And I don't think, not that I don't think, it made this song extra special. It made this song more intense. It made the fire Kendrick Lamar come out. Like we've seen him on Control. There was a fire under him. It's some of his best lyrical swordsmanship. And he was able to bring this back on Whacked Out Mural because of all this backlash that he's been getting, because of that whole rap battle with Drake. And there is shots at Drake on here. It's very minimal shots, but there is shots on here.
Throughout the album, he kind of mentioned it without mention,
And I think that's brilliant that he doesn't have to mention a name. He just has to give a couple of little things, a little hidden gems here and there. That's another shot at Drake, and that's fine. And I accept it that way. But just this song, and Derick, you listening to this song for the first time, and you're somebody that appreciates lyricism, you're somebody that appreciates aggression in music.
Yep.
And I'm sure you enjoyed this.
Yeah, I think there's good bars on there. I caught the same ones as everyone. Yeah, and I think the way that he probably approached this, and obviously I can't speak for him, but by doing it on the first track of the album, but more clearly doing it on the first track of the album and less subtly, and then he goes into the more subtle little lines later on. I think he wanted to just get it out of the way, get the frustration out of the system on the first song, and then the rest of the album he's like, and now I'm going to give you a Kendrick album. Like, you wanted to hear my opinion on what I thought about what everyone said. This is what it is, and now you're going to enjoy the rest of my album drama free, if you'd like. You're going to enjoy a good Kendrick album. I just feel like he's like, you know what, I'm done with this beef shit. You want to hear my opinion? This is it. As for the rest, if you catch the rest, you catch the rest, but it's going to be a lot more subtle. It's going to be a lot more casual. And he did it on a really hard beat. And yeah, I think the little lines in the middle about Snoop, about Lil Wayne. I believe he had a Nas line saying that Nas might have been the only one to congratulate him on the Super Bowl. I think that puts obviously things into perspective. I'm not arguing about Snoop as a talent. I'm not arguing about Lil Wayne as a talent. But if you put the three of them in a conversation, you put Nas, Lil Wayne, and Snoop in a conversation, who carries more weight? Who carries more of that endorsement sticker? Probably the greatest rapper to ever do it, if not one of the greatest rappers to ever do it. So, like, I think he was probably disappointed, probably pissed, but he doesn't really care. And then ultimately he flexed. He's like, yeah, Nas is the only one who said it. That's all I fucking need, really. Like, I don't need anyone else to tell me what I got to do. So I think, I think that was a really good song. It was a really strong way to start off the album, and it really set a precedent for the sound as for the rest of the album. And I think that was really well done.
There's a balance in this album that sticks out to me. And we mentioned the fun part, we mentioned all those aspects, but there's also a balance on here because he's not always giving you the same type of song one after another. He really put the album together, calculated. And we have the next song, Squabble Up. And look, this track is just amazing. There's so much influence in here, but there's a whole dancing aspect to here. It brings back the energetic aspect, and that hyphy Bay Area sound.
Yeah, and they leaned into it for the video too. Like he put a video on it, and you could tell he's having fun. You could tell the people that are in the video are having fun, and you could tell that it's a song that's made to have fun. It's got a really hard beat, a really catchy hook. It's probably going to be the most mainstream song because it's the one that probably sounds a little bit more like Not Like Us. Listen, this song is going to play on the radio for a long time. It's going to play in the clubs, and it's going to satisfy anyone, whether you're a hardcore fan like you guys or you're just a casual that enjoys really catchy, upbeat songs. That's the one. That's the one that everyone's going to play. It's the one that a lot of people are talking about. It's the one that the casuals are talking about, and it's really good. As soon as that beat hit, I was like, oh shit, I know I'm gonna like this one. So yeah, solid.
And it lived up to the hype because that was the teaser. And everybody knew the intro already. When you saw the reactions online and stuff, everybody was saying word per word all the intro. So when that sample came in, he has that money for the samples, huh? Because that must have been expensive. But incredible song. And you see it on the video. It's all West Coast. It's a tribute to the West Coast, and that's what he did. He did something new for it, a new sound to it. And it's the second most streamed song of the album to now.
Let's go with the next song, Luther.
Beautiful. Beautiful fucking song. Beautiful fucking song. Amazing song. Again, the sample. That's the most streamed song. Believe it or not.
From all the songs?
From all the songs. And I'm surprised to see that. I was sure it was TV off, but no, it is Luther. and I don't know, the Caesar is so good, and the back and forth between those, and again, on every song you see the progression and how he can like the songs give the evolution throughout to that till end, and how they use the sample so perfectly. Oh,
The
I
Luther
love that song.
Vandross sample.
I never skip that song.
Well, no, you can't skip that song because, like I said, the so well balanced, put together album that it is look at what you got as song number one, look at what you got as song number two, and look at what you get as song number 3. Right? You can't get more balanced than that. And you mentioned on it the back and forth between him and SZA, but also when they're singing together. It's amazing that he is able to do that on a song. He's able to sing and keep up with somebody who has a voice like SZA. And we only really saw this in his previous album, maybe with the song on Damn with Rihanna.
Yeah.
That he went more onto the R&B style of things. He did Poetic Justice, but more R&B esque would be the song with Rihanna and this song. And I think that he does such an amazing job at it. And look at the beat. Like Soundwave gave him that West Coast type of beat. And the way he was able to flip that Luther Vandross sample.
The guitar in the beginning. It's just,
the guitar in the beginning is beautiful. That it didn't catch me off guard because you could tell that there's a Latin flair in the album, but that guitar was, and there's a few other songs that you have a little hint of that classical acoustic guitar, and I think that's great. The one thing I did say though, and once again, this is purely, how can I say, me overlooking it. I heard the song first and I didn't know what it was. And then when I re-listened to it and put the actual title on it twice, I said the exact same thing and I wrote it twice in my notes. It kind of sounds like a song that Drake would be on.
Yeah, but a lot of people, you're not wrong, because a lot of people saying he's making a Drake song better than Drake.
Right, and that was the thing where I was going to say, I was like, at first I was like, maybe it's just my head playing tricks on me. And then I listened 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and I'm like, no, it does sound like a Drake type of song. And I was like, this is the song that a lot of people are going to be like, I don't know if it's him flexing of like, hey, you say you're the, like, not that you're the only one that could do this, but like you've made your money off of making these types of songs. Yeah, I got you. Like, I got you. I could do this. And it doesn't mean that it's bad for the same reason that it doesn't mean that Drake is necessarily bad or terrible for that matter. Is just, that's what it sounds like, and he does a really, really, really good job at it. And now you realize that game is sort of wide open whenever you have an artist like Kendrick who could do the West Coast, can do the really like lyrical, the really insightful albums and all that kind of jazz. He could also pop one of those, I call them lady songs, but it's pretty much what it is. Like, who listens to Luther Vandross? Like, it's it's older ladies, you know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But that was, it was pretty good.
But this is a song, and this is a song, but this is also an album that'll get the ears of a lot of fans that only really started paying attention to Kendrick Lamar after Not Like Us, or, you know, in the last year or two. Like, it could catch a lot of other people's attention because of the styles that he's going with on this. And Luther is one of the songs. Man at the Garden. Milenko, I know how you feel about this one.
Oh man, this is a fire song. This is like I didn't hear it at first, and been listening to the guys of Dead End Hip Hop. They mentioned about being like the one mic. And I thought, as soon as I heard that One Mic by Nas, I think it's pretty accurate to say. It's like it's kind of one mic tribute, and it's just so powerful. I don't know how can people don't like that. So again, the progression to that very end when the beat just collapses on each other, and he just said it with a point like, why do you deserve the greatest of all time, motherfucker? And like, it's just perfect way. Super well written.
this plays back on his Super Bowl being chosen to be in the Super Bowl. It's like he deserves everything that he's getting.
Mhm.
He deserves to be in the list of the greatest rappers of all time. He deserves to be there. He's giving us numerous years and projects that have been perfect.
Mhm.
And I've been saying this on this podcast for years, since 2018, that I think Kendrick Lamar is one of the greatest rappers of all time. And I don't care. Anybody can come and question me. Milenko, we've had numerous conversations about this. There's nobody that deserves it more than Kendrick Lamar on that grand scale.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he is. By
Like if you
I don't think it's even. I don't even know how people see it close from someone else.
it's not. And remove streaming bullshit and remove
Yeah.
pop chart bullshit, remove all that stuff, because no, it's just levels upon levels of artistry, lyricism, craftsmanship, just what he's able to give us with consistency of albums. I don't care about one song and how at the top of the list it is. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. What is this artist giving us, and how much of it is he giving us? If he would have came out with one or two albums and they were great albums, and then everything else just sank and weren't good, then we would be having a totally different conversation. But how an artist is able to give us numerous amounts of albums that sonically sound different, and being able to give it to us on that level, and this is what the song means, is he's this guy. He deserves it all. I'm gonna pick these songs right now because these songs are highlights for me on the album. Hey Now, featuring Dottie Six. TV Off, featuring Lefty Gunplay. Peekaboo, featuring Milenko's favorite, AZ Chike. And GNX featuring Hida, J3, Young Threat, and Peso. And Peso. Let's dig into these songs, because these songs all have one thing in common. What they all have in common is a sound that Kendrick Lamar hasn't really ever brought to his albums, hasn't really ever played with. It's something that he's grown up listening to. It's something that has influenced him so much, and he was able to use this on this album. And that is that West Coast / Bay Area type of sound. One of Kendrick Lamar's biggest influences, if not a lot of people know this, is E40. Okay, he's spoken about E40. You could tell with the way Kendrick Lamar changes his flow throughout his songs, going from that very, very, very low pitch to back up to a high pitch when the beat switches. That is all influenced by E40 Fonzarelli. Okay, and he's able to do that and showcase that on all of these songs. Okay, imagine hearing on Hey Now an E40.
It would have been perfect.
Imagine hearing E40 with Kendrick on Peekaboo.
Yeah. Oof.
And he gave us things that we never really heard him on. Maybe he might have played with it a bit here and there. He did with Not Like Us. He's done it maybe a bit on his
Black Panther. Black Panther, he had that paramedics with SOOOO.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
And that song was a banger. I love when he does that. And sometimes on Schoolboy Q albums, he would maybe do back vocals on some of those cuts.
He gave us that authentic Bay Area sound. He's experimenting with that. And I love to hear him on this stuff. I love it. He changes his vocal tones. He raps differently. He puts himself in different pockets. He's more
a psychopath, dude. He's a psychopath on those sounds. Sometimes when he gets, sometimes dude, I wish I could see him work. I wish I could see him in the booth, just coming with those intonations and just sounding like he's a weirdo, dude.
He's
a
more
weird one.
on beat than I've ever heard him on these songs. Like the beat, like his voice is the beat.
Mhm.
Man, I love what he was able to do with this. And it might not get as a reaction, like a big reaction, like what we're saying about it. Okay, because we love to see the evolution. And a lot of people might be, oh, I wouldn't want to see Kendrick on this. Or, hey, the beats are not really good beats. And by the way, this whole album was produced by Soundwave, with a couple of tracks by DJ Mustard.
Mhm.
And some of these songs that we're talking about are produced by DJ Mustard. And DJ Mustard is somebody that's really influenced by that West Coast, obviously coming from there, and Bay Area sound. But the beats like this are just basic beats.
Mhm.
It's nothing extravagant, but it's
No,
what
big 808s, big 808s, go big bass lines throughout. Like
Right.
it's fun songs.
And the Bay Area is known to be able to make these songs so next level, so extravagant, so party anthems, so at the same time so street. Like what Rick Rock was able to accomplish with E40,
Mhm.
with My Ghetto Report Card, and all the other albums that he came out with was next level. And you could hear all the influence in here, DJ Mustard's influence with that Rick Rock sound. And I think it's super important that we really showcase this within the album, is that he gave us something he never gave us.
Mhm. And
Right?
people didn't think he could do it anymore. That's the other thing. If you would have told me that DJ Mustard would probably have the best beats on 2024, I would have never believed you. Never believed you. He was a shit in 2012, 2013, 2000. But to make this sound and have probably the biggest song in hip hop is crazy to me. And now all these songs and this, man, props to him. I don't know if Kendrick gave him the elevation like that. I think Mustard must have 1,000 beats like this on this thing. But I mean, I would have never believed you. Never.
You like these beats, Derick?
Yeah, I think that's, for me, that was just a little different compared to the very catchier beats of Squabble Up and all that kind of jazz. It was definitely a little lower energy,
Mhm.
but still quite intense in terms of the beats. They were a little bit more soulful, a little bit more jazzy. I think there was still a little bit of that Latin influence that I genuinely enjoyed. And I think if there's anything that I've caught off of this, is not that his energy was lower, but he felt like he was in the zone a little bit more in terms of the bars and his delivery and the way he was approaching those beats. He didn't try to reinvent the wheel. He wasn't approaching the beats with like a different mentality of like, how can I flow and rap on this beat differently than what the beat is giving me? Like he's done that before, of like he's slightly off cadence. No, he just got in his bag, in his nest, and he just rolled that the whole way, and he made it seem effortless. And I think the beats really complement him in that way, because the songs being a little softer and a little bit less aggressive and a little easier to listen to, he really leaned into the sort of mellow, smooth, sort of like kind of like just riding the beat as much as possible. And I think that made for a very enjoyable listening experience, a little bit less intense than the beginning of the album. That's just really hard and really catchy and all that kind of jazz. A little less like car worthy, if I would say, and a little bit more, you're at home, you're chilling, you just put that on, it's going to flow really, really well.
You're talking
And I
about the
think,
rest of the album now, right?
yeah, I'm talking about the songs that you've mentioned, just the energy that I got off of it. They just felt a little lower energy, but I didn't want an album that was just high up tempo, upbeat the whole time. I needed some sort of mellowing at some point. And I think the fact that he came in so hard in the beginning, I like the way the middle of the album sort of slightly tapered down a little bit for me. I think that was really good. I think Peekaboo was fantastic. I think a lot of bars. He was really aggressive on that one. I genuinely really enjoyed that song. But yeah, for the most part, those beats for me are different. just because the hip hop that I've been listening to, there's not a lot of the West Coast ish type of hip hop that I listen to. So that was definitely a learning sort of like a learning curve for me and a learning experience for me. But I enjoyed it. There was nothing that it was nothing egregious that I wouldn't listen to on my daily. So yeah, it was good.
Milenko, we have the Reincarnated.
That's the centerpiece of this album. That's a masterpiece, man.
What a song.
To me, that's one of look, just thinking about it give me chills, bro. Just thinking about it, just talking about it give me chills. I think this probably one of the best Kendrick songs of all time. Honestly.
Wow.
Because it's too much. It's too much, bro. It's too much. It's like he says it on the beginning, yeah, no double entendre and all that, but that song alone is just like 5-6 entendres in one. It makes no sense. It makes no sense, bro. It's that as soon as I heard that beat drop, I couldn't fucking believe it. My reaction to that beat drop was epic. I wish I would have filmed myself with that. I yelled. I was like, and then when I heard him sing with the intonation of Tupac, get the fuck. I'm like, oh man. The first thing I thought is tailor-made. Tailor-made. That was Drake used the Tupac voiceover to do, and he sounded horrendous. He sounded like Drake it was horrendous. And this is like Kendrick saying, this is how you do a fucking West Coast Tupac song. It's straight up.
With the flip on the song featuring the Outlaws by Tupac made. So that was amazing to see.
And the greatest thing of this song, I think, is that someone that's not into hip hop like us and maybe won't catch that sample right away, you still understand that's a Tupac beat. And that's tough to do. And that's really tough to do. And the way he raps, like you get it. Oh, he's doing the Tupac, and the first verse telling a story, second verse telling a story. You think he goes in a direction, and the conclusion verse, the third verse, is a whole nother story. It's just fucking, and he raps it all together. Come on now, fuck, it's insane song.
Dodger Blue, amazing classic West Coast sound. Not a long song, but he's able to give us such a flow to it, with a nice chorus. It's just, I think that's the middle of the album where it kind of like, okay, we've gotten all these songs, all these really well put together songs. What else can he give us? And he's already at song 8, right? And there's such a vibe, and I don't like using the word vibe, but there's such a vibe to that song that is just super laid back, West Coast, West Coast time, palm trees, sun outside, the sun's coming down, it's starting to become nighttime. It gives such a great vibe to it.
I wish I had a Cadillac Eldorado convertible. Like that was my dream car, and this song like Dodger Blue would be perfect for that. It was my least favorite at the beginning, and now it's the one that stays. I changed favorite. It's a great album when the favorite changes. I always said this. When you change favorite song on and on, that's the sign of a great album.
Heart Part 6 on an album. Look, just talking about, his upbringing with TDE, rapping with Absol, rapping with Schoolboy Q, parts with J-Rock. It was just, I love hearing stories like that. And it's just classic Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar rapping, and how he did it and what he did that didn't make Black Hippie continue and happen. It was all on him. He wanted to go into a different direction. He wanted to be his own man. And I love his Heart series because it's real, emotional Kendrick on there. And again,
and he kicks back in storytelling. Great beat.
And another West Coast type of beat.
Yep.
With the chorus and the singing. It's amazing. You know what this album reminds me of? Songs like Dodger Blue, Heart Part 6, Gloria, Luther. It reminds me of the type of sound that Tupac was going for on Me Against the World.
I can see that. I can see a bit. Yeah.
That's something that you should listen to. After listening to this album, Derick, that's an album that you need to go and listen to, and you'll understand what I just said. And he ends it off with Gloria, again featuring SZA, the storytelling behind it, and at the end of the song, he tells us that Gloria is the name of his pen. Brilliant, just brilliant. 12 songs. How long is it? 44 minutes? Yeah, 44 minutes. Another Kendrick project, another enjoyable Kendrick Lamar album. I want to hear your favorite tracks off this album. Give me 3 favorite tracks, Derick.
Oh boy. 3 favorite tracks. I'm gonna have to say in no specific order.
Yeah.
I think for me, Squabble Up, TV Off. I think I'm gonna have to say Reincarnated, but literally I made my top 3 times, and all 3 times it was almost 3 different songs, or like the number 1 would change, the number 3 would change. So to Milenko's point, because I put ratings on songs. Like whenever I listen to a song, I just automatically give my first feedback, and it's pretty much all 8 on 10s, 8.5 on 10s. Like everything is so close together. Like I have Whacked Out Murals, that's a number 4, but it's just so freaking close on all of this. And yeah, for me, really the highlights of the album, the Latin influence on it. I can't understate how much I genuinely love the Latin influence in this. The guitars, absolutely loved all of it. Reincarnated, the piano in Reincarnated is fantastic. The aggressive tone that he takes to a song that's a little bit more soft, I absolutely love it. For me, I had more difficult listens to on this album, and it was probably the softer songs for me, like Hard Part 6, Gloria. But that's just because I was coming off such a high energy and a high vibe through this album that felt like Kendrick's last project, a little bit more introspection, something a little bit softer, a little bit more vulnerable. And he didn't really have a lot of the more introspective and vulnerable parts in this album, other than like those 2 songs for me. So they felt like they clashed a little bit with the album. I do understand why he put them there, but for me, I was still riding that high of like that whole West Coast, a little bit more chill. You guys mentioned Dodger Blue real quick, and the vibes I got of it were like just bouncy. I remember playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and like the sort of intro to Grand Theft Auto Vice City had that little bit of a bounce to it, and I think Dodger Blue was right up there. I think, Steven, you summarized it perfectly. The sun is setting, driving a convertible by the beach. That's that song. It's the beach parties tends to get a little bit over towards that time. That's the song you put in. That was great. But yeah, if you guys ask me tomorrow, I'm probably gonna have 3 different songs to put on that top 3. So that's a sign of a great album. To Milenko's point, the fact that everything changes. Yeah, he cooked on this. So,
Oh, for sure.
Milenko?
I can't give you 3. I'll give you the first, Reincarnated. I think that's the number 1. At first listen, it was A Now. I fucking loved A Now.
So good.
Then it changed. Now it's Peekaboo. I love Peekaboo. AZ Shy.
Milenko, next time.
Bitch, is that homie Chuck E. Cheese. I love
Milenko,
that.
do me a favor. Next time you listen to Peekaboo, close your eyes.
Yeah.
And think of V40.
Yeah. I mean, fuck. Yeah. Okay, so I give you Reincarnated,
Peekaboo,
Looter, and Peekaboo. That's my 3.
Okay.
And it changes all the time. I'll give you the song that is the hard for me, that maybe is GNX. The actual track for the title.
Yeah.
That's the one that is it's not my favorite. I don't skip it, but it's not my favorite.
It's my least favorite on the album. GNX,
I get it.
Sure.
I get it. I absolutely get it. Even for me, I genuinely wrote it's the more difficult song to get into on the album. The beat sort of like it feels like it's offbeat, and it always sort of like it restarts, or it's not even a loop that's sort of like, normally when something loops, it sort of loops into the next part of the loop and so on, and then it just brings it back. And that just felt like the beat started, it was 30 seconds, and bang, it ends, and then it starts again, it just felt a little bit too like in French we use saccadé. It felt a little bit too like broken up. It doesn't mean that it's a bad song, but it did feel a little bit out of place in this album for me.
I'm gonna go with Whacked Out Murals because I love the aggression on it. I love how it starts the album off. It's classic hip hop when you start off your album with aggression and a punch in your face. I'm gonna go with TV Off, and I'm gonna go with Dodger Blue. I love how TV Off flows right into Dodger Blue, and it's a totally different beat, totally different sound. I love that. GNX, by the way, I forgot to mention that was the car that his dad drove him home in after he was born. Am I wrong? I read that somewhere, or I heard that somewhere.
That's a banging car, dude.
Well, if he had that car, good for him. I don't think it was that expensive back in the day, though.
No, but you're talking about a limited.
The Grand
you're
National.
Talking about like So there was a Grand National, and then there was the Grand National Experimental, which was the GNX. That car was not an easy car to come by. I don't remember the exact production numbers on a GNX, but they didn't make like 200,000 of those. It was very much a limited production car. It said it experimental. It's something that Buick had never done in the past. So like, that's a gangster car.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's a gangster car.
The other thing about this album that I really enjoyed is the featurings. Besides SZA, all the other featurings are guys that I've never heard about. Kendrick Lamar took a bunch of these guys, whether he grew up with them, whether they're from the same parts that he's from, whether it's guys that he met from other people. He was able to put on his album different artists that people have never really heard about. Look, I've never heard about them. I know Milenko is a fan of AZ Chike, but these are all guys that, like, I'm like, who are these people? Let me see if I could go find where else they're on. You know, like, you're being put on a Kendrick Lamar album. There's millions and millions of people listening to this. So that means there's millions and millions of people who are going to invest in who these artists are and what other projects they do. Not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people like to have people on their albums that people are known artists. Kendrick Lamar didn't do that. He just gave you a bunch of these guys that probably have never been heard of. And he's able to showcase them and push them forward. Yeah, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, good on him for doing that too. Like, who knows? Maybe those guys are going to get more recognition. Maybe they'll get those serious radio things like Shea 4-5 and that kind of stuff to really like showcase what they're able to do flow wise on them mixing up beats. Normally, whenever you get these guys on songs and you don't really know where they come from, normally those guys approach those sort of like freestyles hungry as hell. And I'm hoping that happens because there's a reason why Kendrick put them on this project specifically. And there's a reason why he chose them is because he trusts them and he trusts that they could bring value to this album. And if Kendrick recognizes that these guys who we haven't really heard of for the most part are able to bring value to his album, arguably the greatest rapper alive right now, if not one of the greatest rappers alive, then they're going to bring value to someone else's album and hopefully someone else recognizes that too. So yeah, good on him for doing that. That's the kind of old school shit that hip hop artists used to do. Here's like this guy I know from the street. I've heard him rap. He's really good. He deserves it, you know? So good on him for doing that.
Put people on.
Yeah, good on him for doing that. You could go for the names. Listen, on singles, you want the big feature, you want the J. Cole's, you want that kind of shit. Go right the hell ahead. I don't mind. But Kendrick on this, I don't feel he's like, you know what? Like, I know I'm going to make bag regardless with this. It doesn't matter. I just want to showcase talent. And that's what he did. And he did so in a masterful way. And all those guys really did well.
Milenko, I think it's that time. We need to give our top 5 Kendrick albums. Derick, I know you don't have them. It's fine. You're gonna get me and Milenko's list and you're gonna run with it. Milenko, let's do our top 5 Kendrick Lamar albums of all time.
Okay, let's do it. So I'll start with 5, Section 80.
Okay. With number 5 for me, it is going to be GNX.
4 is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
4 for me is Good Kid, Mad City.
3, I go GNX.
Okay. 3, I'm going with Damn.
For me, we're at 2, Good Kid, Mad City.
2 is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
Oh goddamn! I think I know your number ones, boy.
And number 1 is To Pimp a Butterfly.
And
Easy.
number 1, numero uno, it's To Pimp a Butterfly.
Easy number 1. And Section 80 to me is too important to me. I think Damn is my least favorite of his.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know what's crazy? With all the time that's gone by, at Section 80, I hold it really close to my heart because that really shifted my energy in 2011 and how I listened to music, more mainstream music, etc. But more and more I go on, I just find as he releases music, as he releases albums, he gets better and better and better, and the projects become way more. I don't know. There's something about it that he's evolved as an artist. He evolves. He keeps evolving. So the albums and the music he puts out keeps evolving as well, right? So I go with it that way. And To Pimp a Butterfly, it's like you just can never beat that because like that's on a different, that's in a different category of music. If you ask me what my top 10 favorite albums of all time are, To Pimp a Butterfly is in there. So
yeah, I 100% agree with you. I've only heard 3 full Kendrick projects: GNX, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and To Pimp a Butterfly. And for the same reasons that the last time we did this podcast and I spoke about Tyler, the Creator, as an artist and what he created with that album, that it just transcends music. It's a music lover's album. To Pimp a Butterfly is that. To Pimp a Butterfly is a masterpiece, regardless of genre of music that you listen to. You cannot be indifferent to that album. That album cannot not make you feel anything. It's impossible. It's as close to a flawless album as there could probably be. And I'm talking all music genres. And I listen to a lot of music, a lot of different genres of music, and I'd be hard pressed if I say that like in my top 20 albums of all time, if To Pimp a Butterfly is not way up there in the top 5. Like and I listen to a lot of different music, and you guys know hip hop is not necessarily like my forte per se. I've just started getting into it. But the fact that when To Pimp a Butterfly came out, I just picked that album up at HMV because it was still open at the time.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. I picked that up, and I remember just putting it in my car, which I had CD at the time in the car. And I remember just listening to it in the car, and I remember being like, this is not the right place for me to listen to this. I got home, I put it in my stereo, and I think I must have listened to it on repeat at least for a solid 3 hours. And I remember telling everyone about it, and people, yeah, hip hop's not my thing. Most of my friends are into rock and stuff. I'm like, no, guys, you don't fucking understand. You guys are hearing, but you're not you're not listening to what I'm saying to you. Like you need to get this. This is on a shelf. Like if you go into someone's house and you look at their music shelf and you're looking at all these albums, if To Pimp a Butterfly is on that list, I know I can have a conversation with this person about music, not just rock, not metal, not hip. I know I can have a conversation with this person about music, and this person gets it.
100%.
It's a statement.
Yep.
Boys, let's move on. Because
So a completely different album.
We didn't give our scores though.
Oh yeah, we didn't give our scores. Derick, your score.
8.5.
Milenko, your score.
This is a 9.5. 9.5. This is a big score.
After 2 weeks of listening to it, I am set right now on an 8.5. Right now.
To me, the 0.5 is the features. I wish maybe the features would have done something bigger for me, but that's it. That's pretty much the only point I can.
At
That's the only point I take
9.5.
off.
A 9.5, Milenko?
Yep.
A 9.5. That's
I
number one
understand
for
him.
Milenko for the year.
I understand them.
It's crazy good.
And I remember texting Milenko or Milenko texted me. I think Milenko texted me. No, he texted me about the next one we're about to do, and I remember texting him. And I think Milenko's first text back, or close to the first text back, was like, "This is the best work since To Pimp a Butterfly."
Yep.
That was
100%.
that was what Milenko said, and like
100%.
we didn't really talk much afterwards.
Mhm.
But when because Steven, you were on vacation during that time, and I really wanted to talk to you about it, but I also wanted to respect your time.
I told you off.
Yeah. Well, you didn't tell me off.
I told you basically shut the fuck up. I don't want to talk about it. Let me get it.
I understood the message. And then like half an hour later, he texted me again. Anyway, regardless, I texted Milenko because I had to talk to someone about it. And Milenko was like, yeah, that's the best work since To Pimp a Butterfly. And I was like, God damn, that's up there. And I remember I put my girlfriend on this album, and my girlfriend has been listening to this album all week.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's been listening to the Kendrick
different
album.
Years. I'm telling you, I said it. It's going to be different years that are going to get attracted to this.
Absolutely. And my girlfriend is a Drake, J. Cole type of fan, and she's really been vibing to this album. So to your point, Steven, this is an album that's going to get in a lot of people's ears, and that's a really, really, really good thing, because I think it was really popular a few months ago to just hate fucking Kendrick. Mm-hmm. Like if you're a Drake fan and you're like a more mainstream hip hop fan, it was really popular to hate on Kendrick and be like, whatever. But now I say this a lot, he's made himself undeniable with this album to everyone, and everyone took notice. So good on him.
Let's give the platform to another artist that put out an album, and he kind of likes to do this. It's like 3 years in a row. He puts out an album at the end of November, early December.
Called it.
We called it the new Mickey Diamond and Big Ghost, Gucci Gambinos, featuring Pro Dillinger.
Co-starring
the immaculate Pro Dillinger. Mm-hmm. Boys, I didn't think we were going to do another one. We called it. It's here. Mickey Diamond, Big Ghost, co-starring, featuring Pro Dillinger, Gucci Ghost. This is the 5th installment from Mickey Diamond and Big Ghost after what they've done. Gucci Gambinos. Sorry, I made a mistake. Gucci Ghost, Gucci this, Gucci that, Gucci Gambinos. There's a lot to digest with this album. Again, something else that when there's so much albums that come out and you want to really try and pay attention to so much, and that one of your favorite artists with an S, favorite producer, you really need to put it to the side and be like, hold on, let me finish what's going here. Let me have my small meal, and then let me go to the main course. This is a main course. This is something that you need to be able to sit with. Okay. You have your potatoes, you have your salad, you have your big piece of meat paws, and it just has so much going into it. Here, where I'm at with it right now is this is a flawless record. Okay. This is a homage. This is a play to Only Built for Cuban Links. Okay. And I don't want to mention the Only Built for Cuban Links too much, because what Mickey Diamond and Pro Dillinger and Big Ghost were able to do on that is far beyond something totally different to what RZA, Raekwon, and Ghostface were able to do on there. Not saying that it's better, but it's a 2024 essential project for the listeners to be able to listen to, digest, and end off the year correctly. Okay. Yes, it's an homage. Yes, they're doing the play on play with the same concept to what it is, the mafioso style, the gangster style, okay, with the kung fu flicks, but they don't really use the kung fu flicks. Big Ghost didn't really tap in. He really tapped into more of the mafioso style, and he did an excellent job with flipping those tracks, those Raekwon Only Built for Cuban Link tracks, those RZA production tracks, and making them into his own. Look, it's a necessary sound. It's a necessary sound that we need. Big Ghost has been crafting music essentially for the last, I don't know, I'm looking at my watch that doesn't exist. 7 years, 6, 7 years. Okay. And Big Ghost is one of his best years this year. The projects that he was able to craft for us, and now being able to craft something like this and make us such a great record to listen to is just amazing. Please tell me what you guys think of it. Derick, let's go with you. You're the outside looking in.
Had this album, and once again, this is not a dig in any way, shape, or form. Had this album come out before the Kendrick album, and before I listened to the Kendrick album for this specific episode, I would have probably enjoyed it more than I did. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to revisit it or go back to it in any way, shape, or form. But these are the last 3 albums, hip hop albums, that I listened to before getting into Mickey Diamond. The Tyler, the Creator, the Vince Staples,
wow,
and the Kendrick Lamar.
Heavy.
Whenever you get into Mickey Diamond, it's such a completely different style of hip hop compared to those 3 guys that I feel it's a little bit more artistic, a little bit more, not that the Mickey Diamond album isn't well crafted, but it's just crafted very differently. We've spoken about this in the other episode, that's the theme and the craft that he's putting forward. That's the way he wants you to listen to it, and that's fine. But coming off those 3 albums, I was in a more artistic sort of mood. And also, and Steven mentioned it, for you guys, it's really leaning into the nostalgic factor of Only Built for Cuban Links. I've never listened to that album. So for me, it doesn't tap into my nostalgia factor of how the greatness and the gravitas that album means to you guys. That album is across the hip hop community. It's discussed as one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. So a lot of people have feelings, have that nostalgic feeling towards it. And this being an homage to it, for the same way that Reincarnated was a very much a Tupac song, that's why it's so personal for you guys. And I didn't have that personal connection to the album or that sound. With that being said, does that mean that it's a bad album? No, it's just sonically it was very different for me, and I probably didn't enjoy it as much as I should. Also, coming from the clean and crisp production of the other 3 albums, this one, for some reason, other than the very stark contrast between the deep monotone voice of Mickey Diamond and the very raspy, aggressive Pro Dillinger, I did feel like Mickey Diamond, the sound of him rapping, he sounded like he was in a very small room that had a little bit of echo to it. Like I felt like I was getting a little bit of that echoey, sort of like hollow kind of sound to it. And that made it a little bit difficult for me to concentrate on in terms of the purity of the sound. And I think that was intentional. I don't think that was something that like it happened by accident. I don't think it's a production or a mixing thing, because I think the album is mixed and produced well. But the sound, even the sound when Pro raps, he sounds crisper, cleaner, and Nicky sort of sounds hollow a little bit. And that threw me off a little bit personally. And that's probably the only really critique I have. I will revisit this album. I will re-listen to this album just once I've digested what just happened in the hip hop community for the last month, 2 months, which has been a lot. I'll revisit it, and I'm sure I'll enjoy more.
Milenko.
I mean, and I said it, I had this discussion with Derick as well. And I told him what I thought about this album, and I didn't want to spoil anything, but I said, there's one thing about this album that really bothers me, and it's that vocal mix. To me, Ice Cube is a deal breaker. I cannot listen to him rapping on that. It's just, to me, it's like, how?
I think it's done intentionally. I think you guys are. I think so.
No,
I think it's.
I don't think so.
I think it's the. I think because if you listen to it on headphones, I find that it has more of a crispier sound.
I hear it more.
But hold on a second.
On headphones and I hear more, yeah.
But you guys have to understand something. The way Only Built for Cuban Links was recorded, was recorded in a basement. So it has that sound, that more echoey type of sound, that more grimy, non-mixed type of sound. And I think Big Ghost is trying to give you that with the production on here or with the vocals. And I get where you're saying that there's more echoey, because you do hear the more echoey on what's that track? I have it written down here because it's
Rusty
one.
Blades
Speed Knot. If you hear Mickey on Speed Knot,
as well.
it does sound more hollow, more echoey, but I think it's made for us to listen to it like he was recording in a basement and the walls weren't compact where you wouldn't hear the sound bounce off the walls.
But it's odd that only Mickey sounds like that and Pro sounds cleaner and crisper. So for me, when Pro comes in, if he were to sound the same way, just with his rasp, and I would get that echo, it wouldn't clash as much. But on songs where they're both together and Mickey does this thing and then Pro comes in, sonically they sound so, yes, I know sonically they're going to sound different. They're two different styles of rapper and they don't have the same tone of voice in any way, shape, or form. But even Pro sounds so much cleaner and crisper on the mix that for me, it was a clash. And once again, I can't relate to Only Built for Cuban Links. I didn't listen to it. If that's the intention, then good on them if that was the sound of it. But for me as a new listener, it wasn't difficult. It was just, it threw me off guard.
Yeah, I don't buy that, Steven. I'm sorry. I don't buy that. I don't think they did it on purpose. It's too much of a contrast. You pass the Speed Knot to that Trump skit and then to Ice Cube, and it's blatant. I don't know how to me, the first thing that comes is like, why those vocals? And Mickey is not the first time that he does it, because he has a song with one of my favorites, Crime Apple, and that song is totally ruined by the Mickey voice on that. And on Crime Paradise, the finisher, Pro and Derick said it, Pro Dillinger sounds so crisp and so good, and then on Mickey's voice, it's not blended in. It's less echoey on Crime Paradise, but it's not blended in. Like, I hear way more Pro than Mickey. So when you do the transition to verses, you hear it. And Rusty Blades, to me, Rusty Blades is like, you hear clearly Pro Dillinger, and Mickey sounds I don't know if it's the mic, if it's where you recorded it. There's something that didn't catch on, and to me, it really takes me out the albums at those points. At all those points, it takes me out. Dude, that's the first thing on first listen. Ice Cube, I'm like, oh, no, it can't be. It cannot be. It cannot be. And listen, Mickey is a killer, okay? And this album, I was waiting to hear Derick's opinion on this, because he didn't hear about Cuban Links. So I wonder how he felt about the beats, because this is the closest you can get from a Wu-Tang in 2024. This is classic Wu-Tang shit. I loved it. The beats, the production on everything, how he flipped all those samples, and
Crime Paradise, the Heaven and Hell flipped.
I love it.
On
love
there.
It's so good.
It's a perfect outro. Perfect. And Pro Dillinger sounds amazing on that. Yeah, amazing.
Rocking a Gold 2. That sample is flipped perfectly. It's again the audio, and again the vocals on there are not crisp by Mickey. And my only thing, and if you want to compete against guys like Boldy James, if you want to compete against guys like Ransom, all those guys, you need to be up par with those. They don't do those mistakes, those guys. They don't. They just don't. In the underground, they don't do. Crime Apple don't do those. RLX don't do those mistakes. Pro Dillinger don't do those. So I think the detail there's something. Maybe it's the way he sent it to Ghost. Maybe there's something there. And to me, to listen to, and I gotta be and listen, I could say that everything is perfect on here and not mention it, but to me, I need to be honest. I need to be honest with the listeners, and that's the first thing that comes to my mind when I listen to it. And I didn't see no one speak about it, so I have no idea. But it jumps to me. We
listen with different ears. We have different like I get what you're saying from it, but when I'm listening to it, I'm listening to it more of the ears I listen to only Built for Cuban Links with. And I found that the vocal levels on there were kind of all over the place because of where it was recorded. So I'm already expecting a different sound, a more watery kind of echoey type of sound on it, more in a basement, like I mentioned.
Do it throughout the album, and there's a way the sound grainy without being echoey, without being. It sounds low. It comes out to me to low quality and not to a raspy or to a dusty production.
Because
side.
there's a way
It's
to
very
sound.
dusty. It's
there's a
very
way to
dusty.
sound like that, but so like if it was recorded in a basement, that's perfectly fine. But it kind of sounds like it's recorded in a basement on a Samsung Galaxy phone.
Yeah, there's something.
It sounds like the mic that was picking up was picking up way too much of the ambient sound, and basically the way that I like to compare it is that it doesn't feel like he's singing like this. It feels like he's singing like this, and the sound is bouncing off the walls into the mic. That's what it kind of feels like. It's just odd, and it's a significant contrast to Pro Dillinger, which I know this is Mickey Diamond's album, and I know it's got Mickey's name in it, and it's very much co-starring Pro Dillinger. But I do feel like Pro Dillinger has been on an absolute tear this year.
He's a beast.
He sounds like $1 million on this. I think I would honestly, and once again, there's not a dig to Mickey. Love Mickey Diamond. I love what he does. But I feel like if Pro Dillinger wasn't on that album, it would be a very hard listen sonically to just Mickey sound wise on this album. Pro Dillinger was needed on this album to provide contrast to Mickey Diamond's very monotone, especially with that echo. If that sound was intentional, then kudos to them for bringing in Pro Dillinger cleaner and crisper, because otherwise that would have been a whole different listening experience had Pro Dillinger not featured on this album.
Let's speak Pro Dillinger and what he brought to the table on here. Starting off the album with Spooky in My Hood and It Ain't No Peace God, just traumatized gangsters with deep scars. Perfect way to start off the album. Perfect way to give us that intro. Look, we've been saying this many times. Pro Dillinger's been on a tear this year. There's nothing that's gonna stop him. He's coming out with Dirt Wave Part 2. That's actually probably already out after this episode airs, but what he had brought to the table on this and what he was able to do and how Big Ghost was able to use him on here was just such a amazing addition to it, and I loved how they used him as a feature and as a co-starring for the album. I want to talk about my favorite parts of here. Truth or Dare featuring Method Man.
Oof.
Amazing to hear Mickey Diamond have a feature with Method Man. How much Method Man is able to work with such artists like Mickey Diamond and bring out the best in them, and like give his all. He's not just doing a featuring. He's really on the album. He's really there. He really gives one of his best verses. He gives all his energy because he believes in artists such as Mickey Diamond, and the song just sounds amazing.
Yeah, I didn't like that last line of Method Man. The hot dog line was weird. But other than that, dude, I mean, Mickey, I think there's something that is underrated by Mickey is his hooks and his choruses, dude. He can bring hooks and choruses, and he brings it on there. Yeah, I mean, he serves it. The whole album is really well structured. I think he brings that structured. He doesn't give you too much of those just verses or just hooks or just core. He brings a little bit of a structure to it, and I enjoy how he sequenced the whole thing.
I find Mickey is the more fly mafioso on here, as to where Pro is more of the grimy shooter, like the Iceman.
Yeah, I get that vibe too.
And
the way Mickey sounds on this, he sounds like he's cool, calm, collected, never a situation that's above him. And then Pro comes in with just that raw
hunger,
that raw sort of like aggression,
ruthless aggression.
It kind of sounds, if we're gonna go back to wrestling for just a second, it kind of sounds like Mickey is Roman Reigns and Pro Dillinger is Jacob Fatu.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like that's the vibe I'm getting. Like Pro Dillinger comes in as like the enforcer, the guy that like if you get a little too close to the mob boss, like you got to go through Pro. And I think the way that they play off of each other, I think honestly, sound aside, I think that was done masterfully. And to your point, talking about Method Man, listen, I've heard the name Method Man. I don't think anyone has never heard the name Method Man ever. I'm not too familiar with him. I know of him, but I'm not too familiar with him. And I remember listening to this and not. So I listened to it on my computer, and I just shut off the screen and I just try to listen to music. I try to not listen. And whenever he comes in, I'm like, where the hell did the 1992 come out of? You know, like I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but he has that tone of voice, that way of rapping, the very rhyme forward rapping, making every word sound with the other ones. I was like, I haven't heard that in a hot minute. And it was like a breath of fresh air, especially that Method Man, his tone compared to Mick is a lot more lighter and airier and a little bit more playful in the way that he does it. I think that was a welcome addition. I've written a little bit of like Method Man stuff. Like I went on Google. I'm like, what should I listen to from Method Man? So I'm gonna definitely dive in after that. That made me want to do that. So it's a good thing.
Standout tracks for me: A Man with a Dream. Just the way Pro Dillinger is on there and Mickey finishes his verse, and then they're just both doing the same verse. Like Mickey is backing up Pro, or like Pro is backing up Mickey. That's another perfect produced track by Big Ghost. The Last Gangster. That's a pure RZA style beat, and the way that he flips it, and without, I think it's the violin. I'm not sure. I'm not good with instruments, but I think it's the violin. Milenko, you're good with instruments. Help me. But like that grimy style.
I think I don't think it's the violin. I think it is strings, but I don't think it's the violin. I think he uses a lot of the voice sample and it's distorted. It kind
Yeah,
of
the woman with
like
the woman voice sampling on it, and then the beat switches. And when Mickey says "Street Dreams," and it brings it, and it's a sample of Nas's "Street Dreams," and then brings it right all the way back. That's my favorite produced track on the album. You mentioned Rockin' Gold Toot. With
Big Ghost is so good with those. He does it all the time. Those little switch ups to bring back the reference. That Nas reference that he uses is so perfect. I don't know how he does that. That's fucking crazy.
Look, I'm gonna
The
go.
Last Gangster is a great song.
The Last Gangster is probably one of my favorite produced Big Ghost tracks. I'll say right
Paradise.
now. Crime Paradise with
did
the
it to me. Yes.
Heaven and Hell.
Yeah.
The Heaven and Hell flip track on there, sample, whatever you want to call them. Terrible with production, but fuck. And the way they end off the album together is just great. The beat on Speed Knot, Word Bond. Look, anybody that comes out here and says that Big Ghost is lacking, or Big Ghost isn't some of his best production or any of that shit, I don't want to hear anybody. Next time somebody tells me that Big Ghost is not a good producer, I'm gonna fucking backhand him and smash them in the mouth. Big Ghost is one of the best producers out. Okay, he's in the top 3, top 4. I don't care what anybody says. He's able to give us so much amazing content in his music.
I don't think I think there's some that would argue against you, but listening
send them to me.
Yeah, but listening to this on I listened to this on YouTube because it was really the only way for me to get a hold of it through the Pack of the Plug channel. A lot of the comments were actually really, more than anything, praising the Big Ghost production on this, on how he keeps. They said specifically on this that he sort of like reinvents himself a little bit. He doesn't do what he normally does. He just kind of like tweaks it. And I think the biggest comment that I saw was all that. It was Big Ghost, the Big Ghost production, Big Ghost reinventing himself, Big Ghost changing his sound to fit what Mickey Diamond wanted to do with this. I think a lot of people were giving him praise. So I think, listen, it's going to polarize a lot of people. And just like a Kendrick album or a Drake album, it's going to divide people regardless. Some people are really stuck up for having their producers or producer that produces a certain type of beat, but you can't deny the fact that every time Big Ghost produces any album, they don't really sound the same. You could tell it's a Big Ghost production, but it's he always brings a little something different to really complement the artist and the project that he's doing. And not a lot of artists are willing to do that. It doesn't sound like he just has like a bank of beats and just like, hey, pick something. It sounds like, okay, what do you want to go for? And let's go to that. And you had a guest on the podcast, a producer on the podcast. I'm trying to remember his name. That's it. Superior is the same way. Superior crafts beats based on artists and on the projects that he wants to do, and or he has an idea at least of like people he wants to work with in terms of like sonically. And I think Big Ghost is that guy. And I think at the end of the year, whenever we're going to do our list of top producers of the year, I think he should be on everyone's list.
Absolutely.
And that not just us, like he should be on anyone's list. His work is undeniable so far. So
like just this year, he has Gucci Gambinos, SOOOOO, Last Exit to Crooklyn, and Special Machinery. Those are 4 albums that are really different one to each other. So, and that's not counting all the Gucci Ghosts. Like, it's solid, man. It was really solid. I think Mickey, I think, released one of his best album again.
Look at the stuff.
He's been killing it.
Look the stuff. The stuff he did with Eddie Kane doesn't sound nothing like this. It's such a jazzy feel to it.
We reviewed that.
Like he's able to look. He taps into the artist. He's able to give them a sound that they could be comfortable with. Big Ghost is somebody like myself, Derick, and Milenko, where we've took all this music, and we have a big idea in our head, and we want to be able to put it into production or put it into raps, but we're not able to. He is able to, and he gives it to us with a sound. That's basically what it is, man. And Milenko, you said it, this is another one of Mickey's best projects.
I like this better than It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere.
I was real hyped on It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere. I still am. I listened to it back a couple of weeks ago, actually. But this was just, it's super different than It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere. That's more emotional, Mickey, when the beats are totally different. This is way like, this has more of a concept to it. This is the closest we're ever going to get to a RZA sounding style of production in 2024, 2025.
Unless RZA comes back and produces.
We don't know that.
I don't think so. Big Ghost is like on another level with production, another level. Okay, Derick, score on 10.
It's a preliminary 7 on 10 for me.
I don't know what
preliminary meaning that like coming off the 3 albums that I mentioned before. It's I've listened to it 5 times, maybe 5 or 6 times so far. But every time I was coming off of the Kendrick, I never did the opposite, starting with the Mickey and finishing with the Kendrick. So right now it's a preliminary 7. I'm not saying it's not going to grow on me. Maybe that sort of sound issue that I have. We'll see. If ever my score changes on the next time we do a hip hop episode, I'll keep you guys posted. But so far it's a 7.
Milenko.
I didn't do the point while I mentioned, but I have the same issue with Derick coming out all those strong goddamn albums. This one, the sound just jumps at me. I'll give it for now a 7.5. 7.5 out of 10. I think I'm gonna like it more with time, easily, but 7.5 for now. I think if he can pull a Kanye and redo those verses and rework on those, it will be incredible. It will be actually great if you can pull a Kanye. 7.5 for me, because it takes me out, bro. It takes me out. I need to be honest, bro. I cannot lie, dude. I cannot lie.
I'm gonna go with an 8.
8 out of 10.
I'm gonna go with an 8. Look, only built for Cuban links. is probably my top one or top two favorite albums of all time in all of music. I think I have that album about 75 times in different versions just because. And I understand the sound. I understand the concept. I understand what it's done for hip hop. And if that album didn't exist, this album probably would not exist. And maybe I would say 80% of the music that we enjoy and love in this genre of music to this day, especially the last 2016 to 2024, probably would not exist. Wouldn't exist. And I love how they were able to take that and make it into their own.
Him and Pro together is something, man. I love those two. They
complement each other.
Those two voices, the way, like you guys said it, the two different roles they have on this. I love that chemistry.
They complement each other.
Yeah, love that.
They really, really complement each other. Yeah. I look at it this way. Pro and Mickey are like Ray and Ghost. Pro and Snotty are like Havoc and Prodigy. That's the way I look at it. And Pro Dillinger is the best artist of the year. Argue with me. No one will.
I will. Yeah, I will. I will at the end. Don't worry.
Yeah, because you're going to probably bring like Schoolboy Q or Kendrick Lamar and stuff like that and bust balls. I can't wait for that episode with Carl.
I mean, it really depends as well. You know, it depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at the best artist being like the one who put out the best project, like if you say that your number one album is also your best artist, then there's an argument that could be made there. However, if you're looking at the consistency of the body of work, as much as like Mickey Diamond, you know, and I'm not saying that Mickey Diamond is falling off. It's not what I'm saying. But like last year very much felt like Mickey's year. It was just banger after banger after banger. And this year, you can't deny the work that Pro Dillinger has done. Everything that he's made so far this year has been fire. So does he have the best project of the year? Probably not. But if you look at everything combined together, it's up there. It's up there.
Oh, he has the best project of the year, if not the second best project of the year. But we'll have an episode for that in the next couple of weeks. Boys, thank you. I appreciate it. Milenko has a lot of work to do. Yep. Sorry, I find it funny.
He doesn't.
We're going to wrap up the year in the next couple of weeks. Thanks for joining. If you haven't liked and subscribed or subscribed and liked, please do so now. Talk in the comments. Give us your opinions on the album.
And to everyone that's listening, you guys are hip hop fans. Please put your top 5 Kendrick albums in the comments compared to Steven and Milenko's. We'll review them. We'll answer back if we can, if we want any pushback. But please do so. It helps us out a lot. It means you guys are participating, and we'd love to see it.
Yep.
Please come back in the next week or so. If you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
Like and subscribe.
Subscribe and like. Peace.
Peace.